Hello and welcome to the program. Now, it was supposed to be a session to vote on the extension of the emergency on parts of the northeast of the country, but the lawmakers who were supposed to vote turned out battling an emergency themselves. Pandemonium broke out in Nigeria's parliament, otherwise known as the National Assembly, Thursday, as security agents fired tear gas in an attempt to block the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Aminu Tambuwal, from entering the complex. Now, we're going to show you some of those pictures right away. Mr. Tambuwal had actually summoned an emergency session of the House to debate and vote on President Jonathan's request for an extension of the emergency rule on the northeastern states of Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa, ravaged by the Boko Haram insurgency. Now, some lawmakers who accompanied Tambuwal protested the treatment meted out to the Speaker. They scaled over the gate of the Assembly to gain entry into the premises. There you can see the lawmakers actually protesting the fact that the gate was shut against them. And there you can see some of them actually scaling the gate to go into the Assembly complex. Now, after so much argument, Mr. Tambuwal eventually gained access. And despite the police hurling tear gas at them, the lawmakers marched into the chamber for their sitting. Let's just take a look now at this picture. There you can see the lawmakers scaling the gate there because the policemen just would not open the gate. Normally that gate should be open. The lawmakers are supposed to drive in through that gate and go into the Assembly complex. But because the police shut the gate, they couldn't have access and they had to force their way in. There you have the policemen heading up to the complex. And very soon now you're going to see the Speaker now. There you have the Speaker being escorted by other lawmakers now. Now they are marching into the chamber of, that's the chamber of the House of Representatives. But then you still have so many policemen around. Look at the policemen running around, and then you'd see them firing tear gas at this crowd of lawmakers just to disperse them and prevent them from marching into the House. But despite the tear gassing, there you have the tear gas now. The lawmakers stood their ground and they actually marched into the chamber. Now, there you have the lawmakers. Now, this is the very point they actually came into the Green Chamber, escorting, all of them escorting and protecting the Speaker of the House, just to make sure he got into the House there for them to have their sitting. Let's just take a look at this. Now let's take a listen to what how one of the lawmakers actually reacted to the situation.
If that extension of emergency must be made, it must include the FCT, where the legislature, where the sovereignty of the people reside, is being tear gassed. How many people will they kill? Oh? How many people will they kill? Oh?
We also know that the Senate is still meeting, and we expect the Senate actually to make a pronouncement on the issue on Tuesday when the Parliament will be open. I'm now being joined on the program to take a deeper look at this by Achike Chude, who's here, and of course we'll be joined via Skype by Mr. Jitu Ogunye, a lawyer. Mr. Ogunye, let me just start with you, if you can. Okay, let me just come back to Achike because we seem to be having problem connecting to Mr. Ogunye. Achike, tell me what you make of the pictures you just saw not quite long ago.
Well, that we have a civil rule, but no democracy. Because, I mean, if you're talking about democracy from the way we understand it, you know, where you have three arms of government that are more or less independent, but also working together for the good of the larger society and so on, then this is clearly what we are not seeing, you know, in that sense. And of course, it reminds me of, I think 14 years back, Okadibo, when the Obasanjo, you know, government...
When he left with the maize.
Yes, you know, tried everything to remove Okadibo. Eventually he was removed, but there was some pandemonium at the National Assembly, but not exactly of this magnitude. So what it tells you is that if we had a breakdown in the House, you know, in the so-called hallowed chambers of National Assembly during the time of Okadibo about 14 years ago, What we are seeing now is a much bigger scandal and embarrassment to the Nigerian nation. It tells you that the country has not progressed in terms of the real ideals of democracy, because we are seeing it all over the country happening and so on. So I'm not too surprised, because for quite some time we have been seeing all kinds of shenanigans going on in the National Assembly, the State House of Assembly, all over the country. In most instances with insinuations, suggesting that the presidency is also involved in some of these things that are going on, or state governors, executives are also involved. So it is not surprising, but like I said, a lot of people are really greatly disappointed that after 16 years of the so-called unbroken democracy, we are seeing this kind of buffoonery, this kind of chicanery, this kind of embarrassing situation that tends to portray the country, and the people of this country as a people that are not very serious about
why do you think the
democratic
police would
tenets.
have done that? Why would they have prevented the members of the House of Reps now from sitting? Because some people have said this might have been an attempt to prevent to actually remove the speaker.
It was an attempt to prevent something, or definitely it was an attempt to prevent something, because if the speaker and the members of the National Assembly, members of the House of Representatives, were going to their chambers and they were blocked from entering their chambers, it was in order to prevent something. Now, whatever it is that they were trying to prevent is, we are going to insinuate about it. But the reality is that they had tried to open the National Assembly, before now. They had tried to, reconvene, get the members of House of Representatives to get back, to chambers.
Yeah.
As a result of Tambuwal's resignation from the PDP. Of course, he joined the APC, and that created a lot of furor, a lot of controversy, and a lot of anger within the ranks of the PDP. And so there were immediate attempts shortly after he had done that to reconvene, the House of Representatives with a view to impeaching him. But that became very difficult. Of course, that the matter moved to the courts, and the courts had to intervene.
But no one would have expected this kind of thing would happen.
Well, no, not at the national level, not at this. We have seen this kind of shenanigans going on.
Let me just pause you here and bring in Mr. GT Ogunye. GT, you tell me, were you shocked by what you saw at the National Assembly on Thursday?
I was not very shocked, because the pedigree of our political actors is not something to be celebrated. It's a very distasteful pedigree.
No, but would you have expected that this...
We're talking about actors that are perpetually engaged in cloak and dagger politics. So what are you going to expect? The worst has happened amongst these political actors, including assassinations. Time was when a celebrated Nigerian, who is an elder statesman in his own regard, labeled the political party a nest of killers. So they've done worse things. And so for me, I wasn't particularly shocked that once more Nigerian political actors had portrayed themselves as people of no integrity. No, not at all.
You are a lawyer, Mr. Ogunye. You are a lawyer, and so I have to ask you this. What happens to that state of emergency now? We know the Senate is still looking at it, but the House of Representatives coming out to say the president should basically invoke his powers as contained in Section 8 of the Constitution to deploy troops to any part of the country, and then adjourning to December 3. Does that mean it is the end of the emergency, as some people have been insinuating?
The rule of law and constitutionalism say so, that the emergency has lapsed since it was not renewed by both chambers of the National Assembly. The Senate is still engaged in discussion and consideration of a request for extension. It's not done so. And the House of Representatives has flatly rejected any further extension, justifying that by saying that the state of emergency, even when it had been extended in the past, had not achieved its objectives. And since the president has the powers to deploy troops, in any case, that the president should utilize that authority to ensure that the anti-insurgency operation in the Northeast continues to take place. So for me, the state of emergency has lapsed. Unless it is renewed now, legally speaking, we no longer have a state of emergency in the Northeast as it was declared by the federal government of Nigeria.
Okay, I'm just going to pause you there. Let me bring Achike here, Achike in here. Achike, do you think that this could have been handled differently? Because it would appear, I wouldn't know now, it would appear the executive actually preempted the lawmakers. I'm talking about lawmakers in the House of Representatives now, because maybe they should, the lawmakers should have just been allowed to sit down and look at this, and not just, it appears somebody somewhere was thinking, look, if these guys were allowed to sit down to debate this, they were still not going to pass it.
But they have failed. After embarrassing the nation and embarrassing themselves, they have still failed to achieve their objective. The objective was to prevent these people, the members of the House of Reps, from, having access to their chambers. But I think they did not read, properly the mood of the members of the House of Representatives and so on. And of course, that short of shooting them and short of physically restraining them from entering the chambers of the National Assembly, there was no other way they were going to stop them. And of course, they went in there, did what they had to do, also asked the president to use powers that they say he has and that the Constitution said he has, to also achieve the same purpose and so on. So it was not so fruitless. But the reality is this, that the National Assembly or any state house of assembly in this country is a very, very important arm of the federal government or state government for that matter. So a commissioner of police cannot move against a state house of assembly. Neither can an inspector general of police take decisions against, the National Assembly, preventing members from getting to the chambers without authorization from very high up. And you can only look at the presidency, because the Nigerian police is a part of that executive arm of government. It is a branch of the federal government of Nigeria. And so you can only insinuate that somebody from high up in this country gave that instruction. It's not an instruction, it's not the kind of thing any inspector general of police would want to play with if he was not sure of the safety of his job.
Now, because you talked about the police, let's just, let me just put this in perspective. Now, the Inspector General of Police, Sulaiman Abba, has actually been summoned by the Senate now to explain the action of the police in the Pandemonium. He is due to appear before the Senate next Tuesday. Now, even before his appearance, the police has been defending its action and the lower parliament over what they did now on Thursday. Spokesperson of the force, Emmanuel Ojukwu, said the police acted after receiving intelligence information that hoodlums will invade the National Assembly premises. He said the police cordoned the area and began screening all members and visitors in the premises before being interrupted by the arrival of the Speaker and his entourage, who he says evaded due process. And guess what? The presidency has backed the police. Senior Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs, Dr. Donyo Kukwe, said the action of the police is very much in order. He said the Inspector General of Police was only carrying out his constitutional functions in his capacity as the #1 police officer to protect lives and property. Okukwe denied the presidency had anything to do with the crisis, saying the head of the police did not need any instruction from the presidency to carry out what he calls his lawful duties. Mr. Ogunye, what is your reaction to that?
Let me just simply say that official duplicity, deception, and outright falsehood have become the hallmark of misgovernance. I shudder to call it governance because they are not governing anything in Nigeria. Look, the news is out. The presidency, the PDP, backed what the Inspector General of Police had done. Ajike was talking about the possibility of insinuation. I'm not insinuating anything. I'm affirming and declaring that the president ordered the Inspector General of Police to do what he did. Let's go back to history. In 1962, in Western Nigeria, a state of emergency was to be declared. And the Prime Minister then had to deploy the police. As a matter of fact, the debate then was that the police should be authorized by the Prime Minister to protect the house so that the vote could be taken. Because Kivlado Akinola supporter didn't want the vote to be taken. And there was pandemonium and a state of emergency was declared. The point I'm making is that the Inspector General of Police is too inconsequential in terms of the relationship between the three arms of government, because it's resting on a tripod, to then take on an entire arm and prevent the sitting of the parliament. That's the second branch of government, legislature, in a democracy. No Inspector General of Police will do that. Okay? And so, for the presidency to now, raise up its hands like Pontius Pilate and say, yes, the IGP has the power as the #1 law officer or law enforcement officer in Nigeria to do what is hypocritical. The president should just come even to people and say that, yeah, I declare it so. So, and that is the real problem.
All right.
By the provisions of the Constitution, the House is self-regulatory. The National Assembly is self-regulatory. Section 60 of the Constitution says so. The House of Assembly is self-regulatory. Section 101 of the Constitution says so. And in terms of sittings, they know how to sit. In terms of being able to have recess and then, reconvene. Section 53 of the Constitution says so, and their quorum is 1/3. Now, why will you go there, hiding under the dubiosity that you learned that some hoodlums are going to invade the place? So, how many hoodlums did they arrest yesterday?
None. But let me just pause you here because of time. Let me pause you there. Very quickly, Achike, very quickly, because we have to go on break. What's your take on that?
No, he's absolutely right. I mean, I agree with everything he has said. The reality is that...
so the police was not trying to prevent...
No. The police, I mean, it's wonderful to know that they have access to this kind of intelligence, because we know that we've had a spate of bombing in Abuja. The shopping mall is bombed, the Nigerian park is bombed and so on. And yet the police never had any intelligence to prevent the lives, the lives of the citizens from being lost unjustifiably through acts of aggression against Nigerian people, you understand, by Boko Haram. So all of a sudden they wake up and they tell us this kind of infantile lies and stories. And it's unfortunate that this is what we see, all over the country. It is the clearest exhibition of the fact that these people do not even understand. They seem not to understand the most rudimentary elements of democracy. But I think they are being mischievous.
Let me just pause you there. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll look at what is actually happening in Ekiti State right now. The speaker has been removed by 7 lawmakers. 7 out of 26 lawmakers removing a speaker. How right is that? Don't go away. Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on DEJI360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions. Welcome back. Now, sometimes you think it can never get worse for our politics in Nigeria, but truth is that things are getting much worse and bizarre. Or how else do you explain this? 7 out of the 26 members of the Ekiti State House of Assembly say they have impeached the Speaker of the Assembly, Adewale Omiri. In Omiri's place, the 7 lawmakers who are all PDP members elected Dele Olugbemi as the new Speaker. The Deputy Speaker was also impeached and replaced. Incidentally, the lawmakers and 3 unidentified persons were the same set of legislators that sat at the floor of the Assembly on Monday to approve the 3 commissioner nominees sent to the House by the Governor Ayodele Fayose. Now, the motion for the impeachment of the Speaker was moved by Honorable Samuel Ajibola, representing Ekiti East constituency. Here's what the lawmakers said after the controversial impeachment process.
The Speaker absconded from office. without official notice. The speaker left on his own, playing a role of partisan, which that is not the oath of allegiance he has for the people of Ekiti State. The speaker left Ekiti State. The speaker left Ekiti State to Lagos. Is he legislating in Lagos? What is his function in Lagos? When his work here in Ekiti State is lying low.
So what have you done?
The speaker has been impeached.
All right, sir.
The deputy speaker has been impeached.
On what ground?
They have been impeached on the ground that one, they left their official responsibility without an official notice. When we come to the issue of figure, not figure, House of Assembly has their own culture. We have our own law. We have the way we operate. We have the way we run things. It is not my duty to tell you figure. It is an administrative function. And you cannot allow me to, as a public servant, to go and be doing the duty of an administrator. That is not my own duty.
All right, Achike, I'll have to ask you to react to this very quickly because we haven't got the time.
Theater of the absurd. You know, a season of anomaly. And
a very funny lawmaker.
Yeah, the more you look, the less you see. And even the posture of the lawmaker, I mean, simple
very
question.
Funny.
Yes, very funny. How, you know, how many people actually participated in this? He says it's not his duty, it's an administrative, job and so on. And again, his ability to even muster the points over which they have conducted this kind of charade. He was not even able to do that, and so on. And again, we saw it now. We saw it in this country. We saw it from Anambra State to Rivers State to Ekiti State to so many other states in this country. The madness, and that is what it has to be, has continued. Because you're talking about the lives of 160 million people. And look at the kind of people that are running affairs.
They are running things according to him. Mr. Ogunye, let me bring you in here. You heard what that lawmaker said. What's your take? We're running out of time.
It's illegal and unconstitutional for 7 members of the House, a House that is made up of 26 members, to pretend to have impeached the Speaker of the State House Assembly. Why? Because Section 92(2)(c) of the Constitution says that they will need 2/3 to do that. And the way they've carried on shows clearly that we are dealing with anarchists and people I call political terrorists, because they are terrorizing the democratic process and they are setting up for destruction. Yeah. And in Ekiti State in particular, it's very interesting that the new governor, before he became a governor, took on the judiciary. So much so that today, cases involving him have been dropped like hot potatoes. And now he's taking on the legislature. So when you have 3 arms of government and you've already clobbered the judiciary into submission so that the court was shut down, and now you've taken over the legislature, what's left is an era of new dictatorship in the state. And I think that the state people should enjoy and savor the love of the new man that is at the helm of affairs. We are told that they love him. We'll see where that love will end.
Well, it's on that note that we have to end this program. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming on the program. Thank you very much for your contributions. Achike, thank you very much for your contributions. And J.T. Ogunye, thank you very much for your contributions
thanks
as well.
for inviting me.
Thanks for coming on the program. Well, that's it on the program. If you want to watch it again, it's simple. Just go to our website, tv360nigeria.com. You'll find the program and lots more there. You can also watch us on YouTube by subscribing to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TV360Nigeria. Or follow us on Google Plus at TV360 Nigeria, or just like us on Facebook. The address is facebook.com/TV360 online. You can also follow us on Twitter. Our handle is at TV360 online. Thanks very much for watching. We're back again next week.